So then that puts us into comic books and books. This week, Deadpool is dying again in the comic books. Weird. We have Power Rangers are meeting up with Usagi Yojimbo, which is kind of awesome, and Firefly prequel series that I'm not sure we asked for. All that and actually quite a bit more this week in comics. So let's get into it. Hello, nerds, and welcome to this week's episode of The News as it pertains to comic books and books. No discussion of current storylines, story arcs, or any of those kind of details is going to happen here per se. I am, after all, a one-man organization and can't read every book that comes out and report on it and any of the news therein. But we can talk about new announcements and major changes as they pertain to any of the publishers that we follow, or just generally nerdy literary information in that sense. So let's get into all of that, shall we? And also, if you dig what's going on here, there is a much more up-to-date and possibly relevant, because it takes a second to get these sections posted up, so probably much more up-to-date version of the news in long form I like to call The Week in Nerddom over on the main channel, which you can find linked in the description as well as at the end of this video. That show covers many more points of interest in the nerd community, in the pop culture community at large, and so definitely go check that out. Now let's get into all of those literary notes, shall we? Before we get into the proper things and the stuff, real quick admission. Apparently, when I was filming last night, I skipped this section. So things look a little bit different because we're doing this on the fly. I had to fire everything back up, and so we're gonna probably try and go pretty quick over this. We have no confirmations, reputations, we have no new trailers to talk about, just regular news. So let's do the thing there, shall we? Kicking off regular news, we have Power Rangers and Usagi Yojimbo. Boom Studios is doing a one-shot crossover to mark the 40th anniversary of Usagi Yojimbo, the floppy-eared ronin that we all kind of know and love, as associated with the Ninja Turtles, if I'm remembering correctly. But I mean, that's my only frame of reference for him. So maybe there's something else in there that I'm missing in the history. But yeah, this book is going to be written by Ryan Parrott, art by Shawn Daley, and colors by James Jenner is going to be. And colors by James Jenner. That's your team for this one-shot book. I did not see the release date, so hopefully I'll get that into the show notes. From there, though, we have Deadpool dying again. Marvel has announced that Wade Wilson is going to be passing away in the comic books once again, which is strange timing considering the movie is about to come out. And the death of Wade Wilson is going to be shortly after the movie. We have the movie in July, and then we have the month of August and September. September, I did not see the specific date, but sometime in September, issue number 6 for the current run is going to see the death of Deadpool. It is supposedly going to be coming at the hands of his current new adversary, Death Grip, and the death of Deadpool comes at the hands of his current adversary, new adversary even, Death Grip, who is, I believe, new for this arc and has a background in mysticism, so maybe that's how he gets past Deadpool's mutant healing ability. But I am honestly not currently reading the Deadpool stuff, so I don't know exactly all of those details. But they do this every so often. Like Deadpool, I think this is the third time in my recent history, or my recent memory rather, that they've killed off Deadpool. So very interesting that they're doing this right around the time of the movie. I don't know what the significance is there, but speculate as you will. From there, we have another Boom Studios announcement, and that is a Firefly prequel book. The name of the book is going to be Firefly Malcolm Reynolds Year One, because that naming convention, Year One, seems to be fairly popular these days. It's going to be a prequel exploring the early adventures of Mal, and the backstory It is going to delve into the Unification War, which is kind of where we meet Mal, technically speaking, in the timeline that happened on the show. But this is going to be a lot of stuff even before the Unification War. The writer for this is going to be Sam Humphries, art by Giovanni Fabiano, and first issue is going to be on shelves September 4th. So we'll see how well it does, because I really don't know that a proper backstory for Mal is what people are excited about. They would be excited about more stories going forward. I feel like we already know what happened with Mal in his past, but again, I could be wrong. I'm a little removed from the Serenity Firefly group these days. I do love the show. I do love the movie. I really dig the comics that have come out up to this point as well. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. From there, we have another Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles book that's been announced, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Nightcrawler. It's a new miniseries. It's going to give us the identity of this villain who was originally introduced in the 2007 animated movie, the TMNT movie. This book is written by Juni Ba with art from Pharaoh Pei. It's going to be part of the relaunch of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchise that we've been talking about since it was announced that they're doing this. It is going to be out on shelves October 2nd, so that's going to be pretty great. It's going to start then anyway. And then our next piece of news for comic books and books has to do with Multiverses, the video game. There is going to be a tie-in comic that tells a story alongside the events of the game, which it's kind of a fighting game that doesn't really have a proper storyline necessarily, so that's interesting. But we have it's going to feature Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, so it's going to be basically a Justice League book. It is written by Brian Q. Miller, art from John Samariva. I'm sorry. It will be on shelves September 18th, so go check that out. And that does it for the regular ass news on this episode, but we do still have our suggestion for the week. Suggestion this week for comic books and books is Injustice, Gods Among Us, the story arc for Injustice, because you can get, I think it's like 3 full trades, that encompasses the entire story. It might be 4, I might be misremembering that, but start with the Gods Among Us arc, and there's a couple of like parallel arcs and prequel arc and so on and so forth. So very interesting. I decided this would be our suggestion this week because of the Multiverses stuff, because that was the last time we saw something similar to the Injustice outside universe stuff getting a video game, and so that's the reason. And it's a pretty fun book. Also, if you're into the Injustice storyline, if you don't know the Injustice storyline, this is a really good place to get it, because it kind of gives it to you in bits and pieces. Maybe you didn't play the story mode in the game. Maybe you just fought the characters online or whatever. This is just a good way to catch up. So that is your suggestion for the week. That brings us to the end of the video, nerds. Thank you very much for joining me for the news. Once again, there is a full and probably much more up-to-date and recent episode of the news, the full-length version, if you will, called The Week in Nerddom over on the main channel, linked down in the description, and probably link popping up somewhere around my face right about now. So click on that, go check that out as well, or if you prefer your news in more truncated pieces, then by all means just stick around here and go check out some of the other stuff we offer on this channel. Thank you very much for joining me. We will see you in the next one. Before we go, always remember, nerds, that if it is generally nerdy, it's probably here.